if God is already making room for something greater in your life? What if the challenges you're facing right now are not signs of defeat, but signs of preparation? Now take a moment and read today's verse. He moved on from there and dug another well, and no one. He moved on from there and dug another well, and no one quarreled over it. He named it Rehoboth, saying, "Now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land." Genesis 26:22. Now think about this. At first glance, this verse seems to be talking only about a well. But there is a much deeper message hidden here. In fact, it reveals 5 signs that often appear when God is preparing someone for a new season of growth, favor, and abundance. A new season of growth, favor, and abundance. And some of these signs may already be happening in your life right now. Before we look at the first sign, we need to quickly understand what happened to Isaac. Before he arrived at Rehoboth, he faced resistance. He dug a well. There was conflict. He faced resistance. He dug a well. There was conflict. He dug another. And once again, there was opposition. But Isaac did not stay stuck at the doors that closed. Number 1. Some doors are closing. At first, this may not seem like a blessing. In fact, it may feel frustrating. You pray for an opportunity. You make plans. You work hard. And suddenly the door closes. Many people immediately assume that something has gone wrong. But what if God is protecting you from settling for less than what he has prepared? Isaac had to walk away from wells he had already invested time and effort into. From a human perspective, it looked like loss. But if he had stayed there fighting every battle, he never would have reached Rehoboth. Sometimes God closes smaller spaces because he's leading you toward a larger one. The challenge is that we often focus on what we're losing instead of what God is creating ahead of us. Number 2, you're being stretched beyond your comfort zone. Before expansion comes preparation. Before increase comes growth. One thing we learn from Isaac's story is that he didn't simply wait for blessings to appear. He kept digging. He kept moving. He kept trusting. God often uses challenges to develop the qualities we'll need in the next season of life. Maybe you're learning patience. Maybe you're developing leadership. Maybe you're gaining wisdom through difficult experiences. At the moment, it may feel exhausting. But growth rarely happens inside comfort zones. If God intends to trust you with greater opportunities, greater influence, or greater resources, He first prepares your character to handle them. Because abundance is not just about receiving more, it's about being ready to step. Number 3. Your faith is being tested. Waiting is never easy. Uncertainty is uncomfortable. And yet, some of the greatest spiritual growth happens during seasons when we don't have all the answers. Isaac could have quit after the first conflict. He could have become discouraged after the second. He could have concluded that God wasn't with him. But instead, he continued forward. And eventually, he reached the place God had prepared. The same principle often applies to our lives. God sometimes allows seasons that stretch our faith, because trust is essential for the next level He wants to bring us into. Anyone can believe when everything is going well, but faith becomes stronger when we continue trusting God despite delays, obstacles, and unanswered questions. If you're going through a difficult season right now, don't automatically assume God has forgotten you. Number 4, you're learning to let go of what no longer belongs in your future. One of the most powerful lessons from Isaac's journey is that he didn't fight for every well. Sometimes he simply moved forward,
takes wisdom. Many people struggle to enter a new season because they're still holding on to an old one. They're holding on to past disappointments, past relationships, past failures, past disappointments, past relationships, past failures, past expectations, past expectations. But abundance requires room, and in order to make room for what God wants to bring into your life, sometimes you have to release what He's asking you to leave behind. That can be difficult, but it can also be freeing.
Because what God has prepared for your future often cannot fit into a life crowded by the past. Maybe God is showing you that certain crowded by the past. Maybe number 5, you're experiencing a new sense of peace. When Isaac arrived at Rehoboth, the conflict stopped. There was finally room. There was finally freedom. There was finally growth. One of the clearest signs that God is leading you into a new season, is the presence of His peace. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It doesn't mean challenges disappear. But it does mean there's a deeper confidence within you, a quiet assurance, a sense that God is in control, even when you don't yet see the full picture. Many times, God gives peace before He gives the breakthrough. Peace before the provision. Peace before the promotion. Peace before the promotion. Peace before the abundance. Because true abundance begins in the heart, before it ever appears in your circumstances. The story of Isaac reminds us of something powerful. The road to Rehoboth was not easy. It included obstacles. Disappointment was not easy. It included obstacles, disappointments, delays, and conflicts. But every step was leading somewhere. Perhaps you're looking at your life and only seeing the struggles. But God may be seeing preparation. He may be making room, creating opportunities. He may be making room, creating opportunities, removing limitations, strengthening your faith, and preparing you for a level of growth that you cannot yet imagine. Just as Isaac declared, "Now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land." Maybe that declaration is closer to your life. Flourish in the land. Maybe that declaration is closer to your life than you realize. Maybe the difficulties you're facing today are not signs that God is holding you back. Maybe they're signs that He's preparing you for expansion, preparing you for increase, preparing you for your own Rehoboth, a place of growth, a place of blessing, a place of abundance. And now I want to hear from you in the comments.